Hi Paper Crafters! Welcome to another Design with Jo video. I'm Joanne Rogers, a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Central Alberta, Canada, and I've been designing with you in mind since 1999. Today we're going to make a cool fun fold card. Let's get started. So this is what we're going to need for today's card. You're going to need a piece of designer series paper, and your piece of paper needs to be 4 by 12, and I'll show you how to score it. And the paper that I'm using is coming from the Well Suited Designer Series paper. And this is mostly a male. When you look at it, you probably think about males, but I'm thinking there's a couple in here, especially these flowers, that are females. And the one I'm using today can probably go both ways. It's paisley on one side, and it has sort of a diamond check on the other side. And I am going to make this more as a ladies card, and then I'm going to show you another sample where you can use the exact same paper, probably more for a male card. So you need that 4 by 12. You also need a piece of cardstock that is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I've got Night of Navy. You need another small piece of cardstock that is 1 1/4 by 3 3/4, and I've just pre-embossed this one with the Dainty Diamonds folder, and I just wanted it to sort of match a little bit with the diamonds that are on the back of this navy paper. And then you need a bunch of scraps. You need, for the one I'm doing, I'm using basic gray, and I'm using gold, and I'm using navy and white. And I layered this up quite a bit using my layering ovals, which are retiring soon. And so I want to show you how you can use those. And on my other design, it's a much smaller, or a much larger set of words. And so I only have 2 ovals, but here I can play a little bit because I'm using a smaller greeting. And then I also have a piece of ribbon that is about 22 inches long. So this is the polka dot tulle ribbon, which is also retiring. So the stamps that I'm going to use today is Ridiculously Awesome, and this has only been in the annual catalog 1 season, and it is also being retired, and I really like this set. I have a couple different cards on my blog made with it. I really like this You Are My Sunshine and Make Today Ridiculously Awesome. I'm using today the You've Got This, so I've pulled that out and put it on a block already. Okay, let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp onto my oval, which is a basic white oval, and I'm just going to ink that up with my Night of Navy and stamp that down. And you want to make sure when you're stamping that you are not rocking your acrylic block. You want to press on it, and you don't want to rock from side to side, and then lift straight up, and you should have a pretty good inked impression. Then before you have a chance of sticking your fingers in your stamp pad, you want to close that up. And then I'm going to just glue these all down together. So I'm going to use the Stampin' Seal, and I'm going to start from the bottom one, and I'm going to glue on top. So here is my gold foil on top of my basic gray, and there's just going to be a little bit of a border around the outside edge of that. And you can see that I've got a little bit of glue on that foil, but I'm not going to worry about it too much because we're going to be covering it up with our navy. And I'm using my seal, which is the adhesive that Stampin' Up! Has. And it's a pretty strong adhesive. And I found that the best way to use it for me is on top of our silicone craft sheet. It just seems to give me a little tiny bit of a surface, a gentle surface that it resists stopping, because sometimes when you start with one of these, they stop and start and you can get a little frustrated. But be sure to give it a little bit of time because it really is a very good adhesive. So I've got that layered all together. I'm just going to set that aside. And now I'm going to pull in my paper trimmer. There we go. And I'm going to give you the measurements that you want to score this at. Okay, so our scoring tool is this one that's sort of a tan color, and you want to make sure you're using that one and not the cutting one. So take that cutting one and put it right out of the way. And I'm going to put my paper inside here, and I'm going to score it in 2 places. Now I'm also going to move out the arm. So our paper trimmer is great because it has up to 6 1/4 inches here, but then this arm pulls out fairly easily, snaps into place, and then you can get up to 17 inches. We're not going to need that today. We're only going to need to go to 1 1/2 for our first score and 6 3/4. So I'm going to go to the 1 1/2 here and just take my paper and butt it right up against that channel there. And I'm going to make sure, again, I have my scoring blade. Now you're scoring onto designer paper, so it's a little thinner than your cardstock. So don't press too hard, and give it a couple runs over top. And now take this paper and move it out to 6 3/4. Make sure I'm in the screen. So 6 3/4 is the big tick mark before the 7. And that's 6 3/4, and score that again. And then we're done with our paper trimmer, so you can put that aside. And now here we have to make a decision now. We have to make a decision if we're going to go for blue showing on the front, which would be something like this, or if we want the paisley. And I think I've decided I want the paisley. So I am going to fold my paper on those score lines, making sure that they are pretty tight to the top and bottom. If I've cut fairly straight, it's going to be pretty good. Whoops, and I did that the wrong way. So I'm going to fold that back. I wanted my paisley showing. So there we go. I'm not thinking, I'm talking. So then I'm going to fold back. So you're going to fold together. So what it looks like, this is called a mountain fold, meaning that it looks like a mountain. And this is called a valley fold. So at that 6 3/4, or the 1 1/2 over here, it's going to be a valley. And at the 6 3/4, it's going to be a mountain. Okay, and then it's going to look like that. So the next thing we want to do is we want to run a bead of our Stampin' Seal right along the back. So I'm going to put it in the middle. Just a bead of it right along the back, and it does not have to be complete, so I can see that I started here, but I'm going to then take my ribbon, and we're going to have our ribbon. We want to be able to make a bow with it at the end, so you want to give yourself a good probably 5 inches, maybe even 6 inches to the right. I'm going to place that right down on top of that glue, so this is just going to hold it in place. Try and get that as straight as I can. And then I'm going to pull this around to the front. And that looks pretty straight. Now I'm not going to put any glue on here because that's going to be glued basically in place when we put our words on. So now that I have my ribbon, and it's about the same length here on either side once I've pulled it around, and that's going to give me a pretty good bow. Then I'm going to take some liquid glue, and my seal will work here, but I like liquid glue when I'm working with ribbon. It's going to make it stay in place just that little bit better. So go right over top of your ribbon. You may need to dab it on. This seal will come through a little bit too, so you can just dab it where you didn't have any. And then we're going to put that right over top of our Night of Navy. Take that, make sure your ribbon ends are out of the way, and it's going to be right in the middle of your Night of Navy. So you're going to have a border all the way around. So this is going to be a sort of a classy looking card, and we can decide at the end if we are going to give this to a man or to a lady. Now, what I want to do next is I want to put just a little bit of seal here. I can get that down there. Now, because I'm going over top of a couple different surfaces, so I'm going to go like this and put, so here's where you need to just start your seal a little bit and then roll it down. And you may need to do that occasionally with your finger. Okay, so that's just going to hold it in place. I'm going to pull in, and I realize that I've cut this a little bit too large, so I'm going to cut this down using my paper trimmer. So the size that I have here, so this is how when you're paper crafting, if you don't cut something quite right, and this one is cut right, this one is cut wrong, then just go in and measure it. So I've got 1 1/2 here from this side of my blue to here, and this is going to be 4 inches. So I'm okay on the length of, or the height of it. I just need to make it a little bit smaller. So my height is going to have 1/8 of an inch on either side. So I want to make sure I have 1/8 of an inch on either side showing here too. So what I do is I go here and I take 1/8 this side and 1/8 this side, or actually a quarter in total. 1/8 here, 1/8 here adds up to a quarter. So I'm going to go down a quarter from 1 1/2 to 1 1/4. So that's the size that I need to make my piece of paper. And I see on my measurements that that is exactly what it says, and I still cut it wrong. So 1 1/4. I'm going to pull in my cutting blade again. Pull that up, make it smaller. We could maybe use that on the inside of the card now. So pull this guy in. I'm going to use my liquid glue again. Whenever I have an embossed piece of cardstock, I always use my liquid glue. It really is the best adhesive for adhering anything that is embossed. Now, this is just going to go right in the middle. And we're going to see our blue on both sides. We'll just see a tiny little bit of white showing on this side here. On each one. Go, let that set up for just a moment. And now I'm going to tie my bow. So your card is actually going to be tied together. So your recipient is going to need to untie it. So I'm just going to tie it in a quick bow. You could just tie this in a knot as well. I'm going to do a bow, just like tying your shoes. And your tails are going to go one way and then the other way. This ribbon is nice and big, and it's very easy to tie with here. So you're just going to pull it through. You can play with the ends as much as you want. I'm not going to play too much because that actually looks not too bad. Now we have to decide, are we going to put our words this way or are we going to put our words this way? And I actually think I like them going better this way. So I'm going to bring in some dimensionals. And I'm using up the ends of one of my dimensional sheets here. I probably could use a little bit more, but I'm going to make do with this right now. So this is a way that you can get the best bang for your buck out of your supplies. Make sure that you don't forget about using the dimensionals around the edge of your dimensional sheets. So take all those backings off. And then put that as close to the edge as you want. I'm going to place mine sort of in the middle. Okay, we're going to give it a little bit of embellishments. I'm going to pull in some of our resin hearts here, and I'm going to also use my Take Your Pick tool to pick them up. So I'm going to take a heart here, and my hearts probably want to be outside. They're not going to show up too much on that white if I put them there. So I'm going to put one there, maybe one up there, and they are going off to different sides. I think I do want one. Maybe I'll put one over on here. Okay, so I've got some embellishments there, and then you could do the inside if you want to. So let me just open this up and show you what it looks like inside. And I think we're going to pull in, just open that up. We're going to pull in a piece of our Whisper White. And my Whisper White needs to be smaller than 4 1/4 by 5. 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 actually. So I'm going to make this 3 3/4 by 5. I'm going to cut that down. So this is how you can sort of create on the fly. These are some standard card sizes here, and I'm just going to glue that right down in top. Take my seal to do that. You could use your liquid glue if you wanted. I just like the how quick your seal is, and this one runs really, really nicely. If you wanted, you could put another piece of white there to give yourself a little bit more room. I'm going to pull in that piece of embossing that I already had, and we're just going to add that to the, well, I could either add it to the side or to the bottom. Let's see. There underneath some words, or this side. I think I'm going to do this side, and then it's going to coordinate with the outside a little bit too. So that's just the same size as our white. So there you go. There is your card. Let me show you just a couple more designs using this exact same fold, because it is a fun fold. This one here is using the same paper. So this is the well-suited paper, but a much brighter one. And this one has Poppy Parade in it. So it's Poppy Parade, and I've colored some ribbon with our Poppy Parade blends, given it a few of our epoxy shapes. And then this one here, when we open it up, just has a plain white on the inside. And I want to show you one more too that is made with our Ornate Garden. So these two are just very plain. Here it is with the embossing, and this is the Wild Rose the Wild Rose dyes, one of the dyes in there, which is a great label. And this is the Ornate Garden paper. So you can see that you can get some little different looks, and it really depends on the different paper that you're using. So there you go, all done. I hope this idea gives you a little bit of inspiration and you're going to give it a try. If it did, please like it below and consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. And if you live in Canada and don't yet have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I would love to be your gal. You can find me at www.designwithjo.ca. And if you're not yet on my mailing list, pop on over to www.designwithjo.ca and get yourself signed up. I post weekly tips and tricks and all kinds of different ideas, and you'll get a free gift when you sign up. Thanks very much and have a great paper crafting day.